Hey everyone, I'm the Rev, this is Reverencing Racing, and today I wanted to show you what it's like to jump in to the LFM servers on a Monday when we've had the track change. I just wanted to give a little insight into what it's like when you jump on to the new week. What kind of racing can you expect? So we're here at Brands Hatch, which is a fantastically old school track. Whoops, bit of contact there with the Porsche. Down into Paddock Hill. That's not the last time we're going to see that Porsche in this video, I can assure you. But we're at Brands Hatch. It's an old school track. There's not a lot of runoff. If you get it wrong, you're on the grass. Whoops, there's a bit more contact. There's that Porsche again. And that's not the last time we're going to see that Porsche either. There's a car there that tries to go in a gap that was always going to disappear. Don't know why he was going for that gap. So there was a little bit of contact. As we head up now onto the straight, I've just lost 2 places to the Ferraris. So it's a terrible start from me. We're down to 9th, but we're going to try and settle in this Aston Martin. We're the only Aston Martin in this race, so we're flying the flag for the team. Let's see what we can possibly do from here. Got company there from the white Ferrari behind. He gives us a bit of a nudge, thinks it's Gran Turismo, thinks he can give us a bit of a bump draft, shall we say. As we head down into the fantastic section that's got Westfields, Dingledell and Sheen Curve. I get a little bit on the grass. That gives the white Ferrari a sniff around my outside. I'm not going to be giving that one up easily. That's a dead cert. And as I say, Brands Hatch, very thin, old school track. Overtaking is not easy. If you get your elbows out when you're doing your defence, you can normally keep other cars at bay. Now I've lost a little bit of ground to the 2 Ferraris ahead. I need to get my head together, settle down into this race and start putting in the laps that I know that we're capable of. So if we skip forward now, about 3 or 4 minutes. So I've taken my own advice, I've managed to settle down that little bit, string a few decent corners together, and that's put us back onto the back of the 2 Ferrari boys. So we're concentrating now as we come back down to Graham Hill Bend. Try and touch the curb on the inside, get early on the throttle, don't exceed the track limits. And the best way that I've found to go into Surtees is go slightly deep, later on the brakes, get earlier on the throttle, which will give you that extra few miles an hour onto the straight. We're well within the slipstream now of the Ferrari ahead. Is he going to defend this move? If there's a move on, he's not going to defend it. He is late on the brakes though. That door was going to close, so I don't put my nose up there. But the BMW behind decides that that's the end for me anyway. Gives us a spin, and luckily we managed to keep control of the car. I have to be honest, that was a touch frustrating. Don't really know what I did to deserve that. And the actual driver that did that was a gold standard driver, so he's a gold licensed driver on LFM. But I'm sure we can agree that that wasn't a bit of gold standard driving there. But nevertheless, we cracked on with the race, 13 minutes left, this McLaren's gone off, a little bit of contact into the corner, it's his corner now, so we're going to tuck back in and concentrate on getting a decent run on to the main straight. Well, they call it the main straight, but it's not even straight, it's curved, but the start-finish straight anyway. So with 13 minutes of this race left to go, I've got a lot of work to do. As we can see, I'm putting a lot of pressure on my left-hand side tyres, they're quite warm. But we're going to do our best to put some consistent, decent lap times in. Our best lap of this race is a 1:24.0, which is not bad. So if we can keep that kind of pace up, I'm sure that we can get on to the guys in front. So the McLaren, he's a little bit slow there, out of the hairpin. As we come back down to Graham Hill, once again, onto the curb. He's gone wide, he continues his left-hander, and into the wall he went. And that was the end of him, and we were up to 8th. Now it didn't take us long, lapping in the 124s, to get up onto the back of this Porsche, which we've had contact with twice already, and the 2 Ferraris ahead. Now the first Ferrari's got it all wrong into Graham Hill, overcorrects, he does a U-turn, very good when you're on your driving test, not so much when you're on a track at Brands Hatch. So with the 1 Ferrari down, we tried to stay on the back of the Porsche and the other Ferrari. Maybe a 5th place finish would be on, which wouldn't be so bad, considering the crash we've already had with the BMW. So we stayed on the back of the Porsche. We've got a good run down now, coming into the final turn. Get on the brakes, trail brake in, power early. There's a little bump, you need to take a little lift off, but we've got a good run on the Porsche. Can I go down the inside? No, I can't. I'll swing to the outside. But he's going to have a look at the Ferrari, so I'm going to back out of it, see what these two do. He's gone straight up the Ferrari. The Ferrari does the switchback. Fantastic bit of driving from the Ferrari. I'm going to try and go up the inside of the Porsche. He turns in on me like I don't exist. There's a little bit more contact on the exit, The Porsche driver must be irked by this. I'm sure he's not very happy. I get me entrance into Graham Hill all wrong. Too much on the traction control, too much on the curbs, which means I've got dirty tyres as I enter Surtees. The Porsche is there, give him the room, give him further room. That room's not enough. And the Porsche, he hits my rear quarter, spins me round, and unfortunately I was into the wall. At this moment I was thinking I'm going to do my best to get this car back to the pits, get it repaired and see what we can do. But unfortunately at the next bend I had some steering and suspension damage, and that was the end of that one. But we dusted ourselves off, quite literally, and we went again. Only this time we've switched to the Ferrari, we're starting fourth, we're on the outside, going into the first corner. Let's see what kind of carnage can ensue this time. So the BMW holds the place, slips up the inside. I need to close the door early on the Lamborghini. I'm concentrating on the Lamborghini, I'm late on the brakes. Managed to not go into the back of the BMW, but subsequently caused a crash to my left hand side as I tried to avoid the BMW, so that contact was all my fault. However, the contact ahead between the Ferraris, that was nothing to do with me, but I've got a terrible run out of Graham Hill. I've got a McLaren behind, he's close. Coming into Surtees, late on the brakes again. Try and get this Ferrari to turn in so that we can get a good run down the straight, settle down and try and get after the guys ahead of us. So once again, I've not had a fantastic start. I've started in 4th position. I'm now down to 9th once again, and we all know what happened the last time I was in 9th position. So we're now trying to get up onto the back of the Ferrari ahead. We've got nobody at the rear that's causing us any kind of problems or putting any pressure on, so we're just going to concentrate on the guys ahead of us. This Ferrari handles pretty well, but I was more used to the Aston Martin, and if I'm honest I prefer the Aston Martin, I prefer the front engine cars to the mid-engined, but I thought I'd give this car a go as everybody was driving it, so we give it a go. So we're coming into the final corner now, on the back of the 296 ahead of us. We've got a good run, we're in the slipstream, rev this car out. Try and keep him pinned to the right hand side to make sure that he's not got the angle for turn 1. Can we do the switch back on him? I think we can. The door ahead's going to stay open, we're going to get alongside the red Ferrari. He turns in on us again like we don't exist. Was I a little bit late there? I'd love to know in the comments. He offers us no room on the exit, barges us off onto the grass, and that's his position kept. But we've learnt a little bit about how he's going to defend his position. Maybe I was a little bit late there with the dive bomb. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to get your feedback, as it's the only way I'm ever going to improve. So we're coming now onto the straight. We have to give him a little bit of a bump draft as our exit was so good, his exit so poor. It's Gran Turismo 7 all over again, bump drafting all over the place when we shouldn't be doing. I have a little look up the inside, try and put him off. Managed to do so, he's gone. See you later, thanks for coming, and that's the end of the red Ferrari. So with that now done, we're up to 7th place. Made 2 places from 9th to 7th. My GCSE and maths there showing its worth. And we're back up onto the other Ferrari. This was just a Ferrari race. Into Surtees once again. This time we've gone tight. The traction control's flashing as we get onto the power. The Ferrari ahead's got a bit of a better run than us, but we're going to try and tuck in and see what we can do as we come up to the tighter part of the Brands Hatch circuit. Love the replay cameras, don't know about you, really do, think they look fantastic. The whole game looks fantastic to be fair. So the Ferrari, he's gone wide as he went into the corner. We're going to try and put our nose up the inside. Is he going to give us the room? He squeezes us tight, but he gives us the room. We get on the curb, get on the throttle nice and early, and we're up to 6th. A decent move there on the other 296. So with that move done, up to 6th, skipping forward into the race. Hard to believe that there's only been 5 minutes of this race so far, but we're back onto the back of, you've guessed it, another Ferrari 296 driver. It really was the Ferrari race. So he goes defensive into Surtees, so all I'm going to do is go deep onto the brakes, try and cut in, get on the power early, get a better run onto the straight, tuck into the slipstream. He tucks into the right very early, we all know where we stand. He's going to defend his position. Onto the brakes, I'm late on the brakes, can't go around the outside, so we're going to tuck back in as we head down towards Sheen Curve and Dingle Dell. I have to say that for all the contact, all the carnage that can ensue at Brands Hatch. I do love the track, and it does lend itself to some great racing sometimes due to the characteristics and nature of the track. So we're going to skip forward now, ever so slightly. We're still with the latest Ferrari 296. We can't get a move done into the first corner. I'm a little bit eager onto the throttle, which means I can't get anything done into the Druids either. And as you can see, it's 3 296s in a row. The boys back at Maranello will be made up with this. Fantastic showing from the Ferraris, really popular car on ACC. And there's lots of setups out there as well, so I would recommend go and get yourself maybe Fridolf setups, which I'll stick a link in the description. Fantastic setups, really, really good, especially for learning the car. Anyway, back to the video. We're back up now with the 296 on the back of him. We know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to tuck in to the right-hand side. He's not going to let us go around the outside. We're a little bit later this time, a little bit braver, but there's a little bit of contact. I'm never going to be able to force my car up there, so we have to back out of it. Live to fight another day. See if we can keep this pressure on. See if we can make this driver make a mistake. So far, his defence has been top-notch, second to none. If there's one thing you'll always see at Brand, it's the dust being kicked up because everybody's running wide. We're now back up onto him. Can we get a move done into the final corner? Again, hanging it round the outside. He gives us a bit of room. There's a tiny bit of contact. I'm really close to the edge, but we managed to stay in the throttle. It's going to be side by side now. Over the start-finish straight. Try and keep him pinned to the right-hand side. And we're going to go round the outside. Great move, if I do say so myself. And we managed to get ourselves up to 5th place. We started 4th, we're now 5th. But what's that cloud of smoke in the distance? There's a McLaren off. I'm concentrating on him, make a complete hash of Graham Hill bend, get clattered into at the rear by the Ferrari. Bit of light damage to the rear, no harm done. My heart was in my mouth for a second, but that's us back where we started, in 4th position. Whew. We pushed on from there. We managed to do the fastest lap of the race with a 1:24.1. The McLaren ahead that we were gaining on rapidly, he's off at Paddock Hill. We go up the inside of him. We're up to 3rd. This has been a decent little turnout for what was an absolute mess at the beginning. A mess of my own making, I must add, at turn 2 where I caused the contact with the Lamborghini. So we're coming now across the line for 3rd position. We'll take that after what was a fairly hard fought race. You wave those flags, stewards, you wave those flags. So we move on now to race 3. We're starting 5th. We've got McLaren's ahead of us, Mercedes ahead of us, and this start was, well, it was textbook start. Decent start from me, hardly any contact behind, no contact up front, everybody gets through Paddock Hill. We also managed to get ourselves into Druids without any incident this time. Much better. If only every race start could be like that. Fantastic. Oh hello, we spoke too soon. The BMW gives us a nudge from the rear, but no damage caused. We're just going to get ourselves a little bit of a collision safety penalty, but no actual damage to the car, so we'll take that. So no harm done. All we can do now is try and concentrate on the cars ahead rather than looking in our mirrors and getting caught up with the cars at the rear. Let's see if we can hang with these guys. They were faster than us in qualifying, but let's see what we can do as the race settles down. The more time that I spent driving the Ferrari, I could see why it was so popular. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the mid-engine cars, it's a little bit different to my driving style. I prefer to have a lot more weight on the front for when I'm trail braking, but I was getting more used to the Ferrari and we were putting in some decent laps. There's that dust again kicking up as everybody's running as close to the track limits as absolutely possible, trying to get as much space and as much angle for all the corners as we possibly can. My heart was in my mouth myself as I got really close to the white line on the left hand side, but we were managing to keep up. In the distance there, one of the McLarens, he's too early on the throttle, continues the right-hander even though the track straightened up. Never mind, that's the end of him and we're up to 4th place. There's a Mustang leading this race. I think he was starting to check out, but I was going to see if I could possibly keep up with this McLaren ahead of me. I was feeling pretty good, as I say, settling down with the car, settling down with the feeling, settling with the setup, and I thought I'm going to see if we can put some decent laps together and see if we can keep up with this McLaren.
Green flag, all clear.
The guys ahead, fantastic drivers, they really were. Everybody was so on the limit for this race. As I say, there's so much dust getting kicked up, everybody was close to the edges, every corner. And the actual pace for this race, lap after lap, was just fantastic, and it was really hard work. It was really hard work keeping that pace. So as we skip forward, we managed to do the fastest lap at a 1:24.7. That's obviously not a good lap considering we were in the 1:24.1s, 1:24.0s earlier on. So we need to bring that lap time down, but we've got the fastest lap for now, which means that we managed to hold on to the back of this McLaren, and I'm quite confident that we can stay there. So we're coming now into Surtees. I've got a green sector, so I'm going faster, I'm getting faster, that'll do. More dust being kicked up as we try and get up as close as we can to this McLaren. As we skip forward now to 20 minutes remaining of this race, there's more dust from the McLaren, everybody's really pushing. The McLaren once again on the edge of the track limits there. Look in the distance at P2 in the Mercedes, going into the corner, little snap, doesn't catch it, and he's into the barrier, and that was P3. So we're up to third, seconds in view, we've got a green sector. This was a great race so far. Like I say, the pace was scorching and we were absolutely loving it. So we're skipping ahead now, another 5 minutes. I've just been on the back of this McLaren, I've not managed to make any further inroads. I've done my fastest lap at a 1:23.877. To be in the 23s, I'm made up with that. That was the fastest lap of the race so far, and I have to be honest and say that I put it down to the opponents, to the two guys ahead of me. Sometimes when you're driving, you can watch the guys ahead, watch their braking, watch their lines, and in doing so, you make little improvements and it makes you a better driver. And I have to give credit where it's due and say that these two guys ahead of me were making me a better driver. As we skip ahead now, another few minutes has passed. There's only 12 minutes remaining of this race. The guy in the Mustang, he's gone faster than the 1:23.8, so we've lost the fastest lap. But it's okay, we're looking at doing a predicted 1:23.9 ourselves, and we're still putting pressure on this McLaren driver. There's still dust flying everywhere, and we're still on the back of him. And that's all we can ask. We were being consistent, we were being clean. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that last, but we were doing it for as long as we possibly could. It was a really enjoyable race. This is what LFM, ACC, sim racing, you name it, this is what it was about. This is why I enjoyed it. It's fantastic. As I say, in the earlier races, we've had some issues, we've had some crashes, we've had some contact. Sim racing can be very frustrating at times, but this is the reason that you do it. You can have good races with other people, and it's really enjoyable. Heading back now into the race, we're still with the McLaren, the pace is still red hot, and I have to be honest and say I was pushing like mad, and unfortunately I've made an error. I'm on the grass. Have I got away with it? It looks like it until I get on the brakes for the next corner, get on the power, dirty tyres, bang, and that's the wall. And that was damaged suspension, damaged steering. The car was pulling to the left hand side, but luckily we were so close to the pits that I thought, right, from third we're going to put it into the pits and we're going to see what we can do. I was in the pits for a good while they repaired that damage, but as we come back out now, we're in 17th place. We managed to get on the back of the two cars ahead of us with 3 minutes remaining of this race. Let's just see if we can make light work of the BMW. He makes light work of himself. Thank you very much, that'll do very nicely, and we'll see now if we can get up to the Lamborghini ahead of us. It's a shame that that's how the race has panned out, but sometimes when you're pushing, it only takes one mistake, and that's exactly what happened to me. Too much of the curb on the inside meant that I was off, and then a little bit of dirty tyres meant that the next time I was in the wall. But these things are sent to try us, try and make the best of it. 17th place. See if we can unlap ourselves from this Lamborghini. Decent move into Druids. He gives us the space. Fair play to him. And that was us. Job done. Apart from the fact that I decided to do it again. I made a complete hash of Graham Hill, got it wrong, and dear God, we've got the same cars to do again. With 2 minutes remaining, the Lamborghini exit stage left. See you later, that's the end of you. Thank you very much. Let's see if I can make a hash of this. I do my best. I see if I can cock that one up. But I managed to get away with that one. Catch back up to the back of the BMW. He knows that we're a much faster driver. He's pushing, trying to keep ahead of us. We're in his tow. And we stayed there with what's now going to be only one lap after this for this race. All we can do is try and put this guy under a bit more pressure and see if we're going to get the move done in the last couple of seconds. He's wide again. He gets a little bit bouncy onto the curb, which pushes him wide. We don't get a fantastic exit, but it's good enough. Still in the tow of the BMW. Show our nose into the right-hander. Late onto the brakes, early onto the power. Watch the bump. Into paddock hill. Can we make anything happen? We're going to go for the switchback again. He's too early on the power. We have to get on the brakes so we don't go into the side of him. That's the last thing we want. But we're going to try and go around the outside of Druids. Just like before. Is he going to give us the room? No. Manages to squeeze us, but the door's still open. We're alongside. Little bit of contact and we're through. So we finished that race in 17th position, which is such a shame considering the pace we had and how well we were running with the McLaren in third. But these things are sent to try us. In the fourth and final race, does anybody remember this guy? Well, he's back. Only this time, we managed to qualify ourselves on pole position. We're back in the front engined Aston Martin, so we're just going to try, warm the brakes, warm the tyres, stay as close to 70 kilometers an hour as we possibly can, wait for those lights to go green, 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 floor the throttle, and we've got a decent start. He's not really in the radar, he's too far behind to attempt to move into paddock hill. I have a little bit of a snap of oversteer, managed to catch it, late on the brakes into Druids, down to first, hug the curb on the inside, start to apply the throttle, full throttle on the exit, and that's the job done. A good start. We managed to maintain our first place, got a bit of a distance from the Porsche behind, who we know doesn't race particularly clean, so all we've got to do now is concentrate on our lap and our lap only. This race was particularly cool, so the tyres were not particularly grippy. We're skipping forward now. The Porsche still for company, but we've managed to open up that bit of a gap, and after one lap we don't have to worry about him. Pressure's off, we can settle down into this race for what I thought would be a relatively simple victory. Until 17 minutes into this race, when the rain started. That's not what I want to hear, Jeff. Jeff tells me that the rain's getting harder, and in the 40 plus hours that I've now got on ACC, I've never driven in the rain before. This was the first time that I'd ever driven in the rain. So because I had a decent enough lead, I thought I was going to stay out on the slicks, force the players behind me to stay out as well, which is exactly what happened. Second place stayed out. These guys behind were people on wet tyres that were going to unlap themselves. However, I didn't know that was the case because I couldn't work out, looking at the leaderboard, who was who. As I say, I managed to eventually decipher that second place had not pitted, so we wasn't going to pit until the rain got absolutely unmanageable. But we tiptoed around on these slick tyres that were now absolutely freezing, as you can see from the graphic. But we tiptoed around for 20 minutes on slick tyres, chucking it down with rain, but we managed to keep it on the island, and it was a fantastic bit of driving, I have to be honest. I really enjoyed it as well. So being my first experience in the rain, I'd say it was great. I really enjoyed it. Considering when it started to rain and I saw those first droplets on the windscreen, I was like, oh my god, what the hell am I going to do here now? Do I go in? Do I not go in? As you can see me letting people past. Once I eventually gathered who was where, I thought, yeah, may as well let these guys go that are on the wet tyres. But yeah, initially I was panicking. I thought, this is just gone from bad to worse. How can I have been pole, leading, pulling away, and now it's raining and I've never driven in the rain before. But it was a fantastic experience, fantastic race, and we managed to tiptoe round on the slicks in the rain and bring the car home for our first and only victory of the day. But that's the LFM experience on the Monday. Crashes, carnage, but some great racing. I've been the Reverend. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.